Hey, hey, お願いします。So, dann get side to side hey, hip shoulders, circles one way, and circles the other way. Hey, and back. Up, side, and the other side. Side, crossing, side, and the other side. And close. So, Isamaki. Hey, right side. So, chi. Yoko. Ki. Ko. Ki. Ko. Ki. Ko. Ko. Hey, bye. Oh, Back. Side, inside, outside, inside. One more time. Outside, inside, and behind, in front, or behind, in front. Remember, sometimes people kind of, it's a difficult concept in some techniques, but sometimes we struggle to understand the difference between front and back, inside and outside. In the basic training terms, that is omote and ura, uchi and soto. And with the legs and the arms, it's easy in a sense because that would be the omote of our legs. That would be the ura of our legs. Okay, that would be the uchi inside of our legs. That will be the soto outside of our legs. So, there's kind of in the body. So sometimes in technique it's difficult to discern between what exactly the difference between an uchi and an omote or an uchi and an ura and things like that. So, just a pair of concepts that are, similar or related, but they are not identical. That's the front of the body. That's the back of the body. That's the inside of the body. That's it, outside of the body. Okay, so I don't know if that helps or makes it more confusing, but which is soto, omote, and pura. Down. So, hey, knees front and back, circles one way, circles the other way, doubles, side, double, the other side. So front, back, front, back, back, sideways. So side, so, so, open toes. Hey, hips. Relax. Lowering down. Hands inside. Hands outside. Inside. Outside. Inside. Outside. Pivoting to one side. Oh. And pivot to the other side. So. Hey, toes up. Toes down. Hips down, sorry. Hips up. Hips down. Hips up. Hey, spine up. Shoulders and hip. So, either side. Right side. So, hey, a bit lower side and lower on the other side. Goes up and change. Hands in front, change. Side to side. Hey, and your legs, elbows down, going forward, and use that. So, forward, hips up, hips down, hips up, hips down, hips up, hips down, hips back. So, side and the other side, side, the other side, one side, and the other side, side. So, breathing in, out, in, out, in, out. All right. So, during the week, we've been reviewing a little bit, a few things that we experienced and that we learned in last Saturday's seminar, combined seminar with other Aikido organizations. So obviously there's a lot in there that we've been unpacking, but one thing that we were especially unpacking yesterday was on certain demands of Ukemi. Or I mean, the Ukemi Waza and Nage Waza are should be harmoniously working within a system. That's why it's interesting when people from different schools come and train together, because not only the Nage Waza changes, but by definition the demands of Ukemiwaza change, and that's normal, that's natural. Why? Because Ukemiwaza and Nagewaza are a good example of harmony within a system. Okay, when you put that system in someone else's system, then something is just not going to feel right. Okay, so that's why it's important to kind of always conceptualize that. That was very important to not necessarily impose, immediately a particular type of nagewaza on another person, because the counterpart of ukemiwaza may not be understood for that person or practiced for that person, so it's going to make the practice a little bit more difficult. So, but anyway, so we were working a lot about the concept of nagewaza. So first of all, one thing, for example, it is common in all systems that there is the need to displace from one spot to another. Some systems, for example, are a little bit more generous on their body movement, and that generosity of body movement demands more displacement of our body. I think the principle in there is also to remember that Tai Sabaki is always going to be more efficient than Ashi Sabaki. And what that means is that I can make it from here to there and turn around by making a whole bunch of little steps into position until I turn, steps into position until I turn, or I can trust in my own Tai Sabaki, make a generous step and turn. Make a generous step and turn. Okay, so I guess the difference in a way sometimes between Tai Sabaki and Ashi Sabaki is that sometimes in the Ashi Sabaki mindset, our mind is on our feet. That's why we move foot. In the ashes of in the ashes of Aki mindset. In the Thai Savaki mindset, our mind is more connected to our hip. And then because the hip shoots, then the feet have no option but to shoot. Okay. So yes, so it is just interesting to see where our mind is. Yeah, and we're going to talk about when our mind is not in the right place. So in this particular case, if our mind is too much on our feet, okay, then we will move the feet all that is necessary. If our mind is more on our hips and our feet are free, then we will get into one place and another place with a bit more ease. So just to practice that, let's do just a quick exercise. Let's do a generous step, generous motion of the foot from one side to the other. Okay, just to release that hip. Generous step forward, generous move back on the leg. So just release that back leg. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, you may not have a lot of space at home. You just need to be careful because, it's not common to hit stuff, when we do this. But whatever space you have, you see if you can cover it, going from one side of that space to the other side of that space with the minimum footwork necessary. So, again, you could go from this space to this space in about 6 or 7 footsteps, or you can move from this space to that space with 1 and 2 steps. So let's try to see if you can maximize your motion and try to cover the distance that you have with as little steps as possible. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, our capacity to release our leg. Remember that capacity happens a lot is required a lot in different actions. Possibly the most basic one, where we focus on our hip and release our leg, is a hip hinge. When we hip hinge, we're trying to focus on that. So let's do a few hip hinges and then we'll see them in action in one particular technique. Okay, so 1, hinging, 2, hinging, 3, hinge, 4, hinge, 5, hinge, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Most famously, those of using your hip, to hinge while maintaining awareness on your center will be something like Ikkyo, right? So if I attack here in Ikkyo and my partner produces Ikkyo, may have to raise my leg while finding the mat. So, but if I don't raise my leg, my partner produces Ikkyo, I may feel a sense of getting stuck. But, there is at least the intention or the awareness of the motion being produced by the hip, not being produced by other part of the body. I always say to people, there are basically, if I want to touch the floor from this part, there are basically 3 options for me to do it: using my knees and touch the floor, using my lower back and touch the floor, or using my hip and touch the floor. So basically, if I have to put my hands down, there's only those 3 options: using the knees, using the lower back, or using the hips. Okay, and in those 3 cases, I will be able to touch the floor. So, the more we are aware with the hip, possibly the more efficient our movements will be. So now, second part of being able to release the leg, use the hip, okay, is in pass the leg, okay. So passing the leg is an action that we'll be talking a lot about in the past, especially with things like iriminage, for example, kotegaeshi, things like that. So, okay, let's just practice doing the hinge, passing the leg, okay. Start again, do the hinge, pass the leg. Okay, so keep that leg again free, and release and free basically, and focus the motion on your hip. Okay, so one, pass, so two, pass, so three, so four, pass, so five, pass. Change to the other side. One, two, pass, three, pass, four, pass, and five. Okay. So, so the idea is that the man is to remain connected. That connection is going to be dependent on how aligned we are with my partner. And that alignment is dependent of how efficiently I am moving from points A to B. Okay, so that's basically a little bit of the game. Yeah, I have to stay connected, but my connection will depend on an alignment, and the alignment depends on how efficiently I can move from one place to another. And in order to move efficiently from one place to another, I have to learn to release my legs and trust more and place more my movement on my hip as opposed to on my foot. Okay, that's a little bit of the little summary about that. Now, one particular ukemi that we were talking about yesterday is an ukemi where we are, in this position and then we bend our knees and go back. So this ukemi basically we're talking about, if your feet are side to side, okay. Sometimes people do this ukemi by arching their back, and we need to be very careful with that. We need to remember that the motion comes from lowering the knees, okay, extending the hip, and then in that position, sometimes the demand will be such that we may also be on our tippy toes, okay. So let's just practice that exercise first. That your feet side to side. We're going to lower your knees, extend your hips, extend them a little bit more, and go on your tippy toes. Okay, just kind of feel that position. Come back again. Doesn't have to be much, just enough. Okay, good. Bend your knees, extend your hip, and be on your tippy toes. Back again. Bend your knees, extend your hip, and be on your tippy toes. Bend your knees, extend your hip, and on tippy toes. Bend your knees, extend your hip, and on your tippy toes. Okay, so depending on the demand of the exercise, that action may finish on a simple back stretch. That action may continue into a long ukemi, or that action may continue into a short ukemi. So we'll see those three in a minute. Okay, but the point is, in order to perform that particular action, our feet have to be side to side. It's another thing that eventually, with practice, we see which part of the game are we playing. Usually, in the ukemi that we practice, we, for example, shihonage or iriminage, let's say, I come here, I attack, my partner takes me to the side, I move forward, and I finish in hanmi. And in this hanmi position, my partner is going to do his or her iriminage. I'm going to tuck my leg, and then I'm going to resist. Equally the same thing with whatever kotegaeshi. Boom, I pass. Okay, my partner is going to do kotegaeshi here, and I tuck and I receive. Okay, shihonage the same. Especially shihonage, the way we do it. My partner steps and pivots. I move in. Okay, I tuck and I receive. So what I'm saying is, in most of our cases, we move the foot back, to compensate, or balance or equalize the motion of my partner, and then from that moving back, tucking the leg and receiving. There are some cases where the motion, instead of requiring the finishing in Ukemi, requires the motion to finish it side to side. Okay, so for this particular exercise, the one that we're doing at the moment, lowering your knees, extending your hips, being on your tippy toes, this position is only possible if your feet are side to side. That position is not possible if your feet are in hanmi. So if in hanmi you try to do it, you immediately feel that something is wrong, that something doesn't feel quite right. So the first thing is that if that's the exercise that is being practiced, feet have to be as side to side as possible, lowering your hips, standing up, and being in that position. Right? So first of all is that when you are practicing with a person and that's particular ukemi because of space or form of technique or demand or request, that is happening, just need to remember that we come here, we step forward, feet side to side, and go. So let's just get there from a hinging position into that side to side position. So we're going to hinge, we're going to pass one, pass two, and adopt position. Okay, we're going to hinge, we're going to pass one, pass two, and adopt position. Over time, hinge, pass one, pass two, and adopt position. Okay, hinge, passing one, two, and adopt position. Okay, so feet side to side. Now, from that side to side position, as I was saying, there are three possible options from that position. So you are feet side to side, and you just may become a back stretch. Okay, yeah. Sometimes with your heels fully planted, or with you on tippy toes, depending how much support your partner is giving you. They become just a back stretch. It may become the position to where then you end up for a long ukemi. If the partner continues with a throw, but let's just practice that for a few times. Okay, so first, let's practice two back stretches and then two long ukemis. Okay, so here, stand, back stretch, one, coming up, knees down, expose hip, back stretch, two, so coming up. Okay, now long ukemi this time. Hips, back, stretch, and out one leg. And the other side. Down, extend, up, and I'll get it. A couple more times. Long ukemi. Down, up, and go. One, down, go, and. I'm sorry, I'm being very generous on my ukemi. That the long ukemi because you end up out that way. If you don't have enough space at home, just come in this position, up, half ukemi, and come back. But the idea is that when you end up being projected like outside somehow with a lot of projection. So that's the second option. Option one is back stretch. Option two is that kind of long ukemi. And I call it long ukemi because option three is this small ukemi, where we are here, we enter the same thing, we go up, and we go down, and we end up in the same position. Okay? Now, in order to do that small ukemi, there are a few demands, that happen on our body. Okay? So, demand number one. Okay? Let's start first with being on the back. Okay, so demand number one. So bend your knees, okay, and hip thrusts. Thrust your hip up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. One more time, hip thrust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. One more time, hips up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. One more time. Thrusting hip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Okay. Now this time cross your leg. Okay. And you're going to have your leg, one leg cross, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hip thrust. You're going to raise your hip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, change with your leg, and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, sit, change, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, change, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, change, one more time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, one more, change, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. Okay, so those are basic hip thrusts. Now this time, bring your legs in, try to see if you can touch your heels as close as possible to your bum. Okay, so heels as close as possible to your bum. And then when you raise your hips, you're obviously going to be now on your tippy toes because your hips were very close to your bum. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. And once again, raising hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. Once again, raising. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. One more, raising. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. And that's okay. So you can relax your legs a little bit. Okay, so that's just preparing the hip and the knees in order to be able to do the motion. So now next one, you're going to have your legs bent. You don't have to have them all the way touching to your bum, but just bent, normal position. You're going to raise your hip, and now you're going to extend above your head. And touch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. The other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. The other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. The other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. Okay. Now this time you're going to do the same. You're going to raise your hips, but instead of reaching over your head, you're going to have your hands in at the level of your shoulders, and then you're just going to rock side to side with your hands at the level of your shoulders. So hips up, hands in front, and rock it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so. So those movements start preparing your hips and your knees and your toes and your lower back, to kind of do the exercise. We have to do those movements as part of warming up or as part of mobility exercises, as often and as often as we need. The other exercise that require a little bit to do this type of Ukemi is basically being able, first of all, being able to do what is a constant demand in our dojo. Remember, when you are pinning somebody, the man from someone else say is that both knees should go down at the same time. Okay, sometimes when you are doing an oshimai, a pinning, in other schools, one leg goes down first, and then the second leg goes after. When I was say, asks us to pin somebody, put hands down, and then make sure that both knees go down. So first of all, depending how warm you are or how good conditions your knees are, with your ankles almost together, go down into that position, put your hands down and both knees down to the ground. Okay, both knees off the ground, both knees on the ground. Off the ground, 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 on the ground, off the ground, and up. Okay, so that's just the first basic thing. So can you perform that with reasonable ease? Otherwise, keep working on it. If you can do that with this reasonable ease, then now you don't use your hands. You go down, you sit on the ground, both knees, you come up, and you get up. You go down, both knees down, coming up, getting up. Down, both knees on the ground, up, and up. Down, both knees on the ground, up and up. One more, down, both knees on the ground, up and up. Okay, so again, if you can't do that, it's fine to use any sturdy and well anchored tool to be able to do that, or just continue working on being on your hands and just keep working on the mobility of your toes and your ankles, to your toes, sorry, and your knees in that position with as much support as needed. But okay, so you can go all the way down. You can put your knees down. Now it comes the part where you basically do your Ukemi. So you come here, you sit down. Instead of going forward, now you're going to go backwards. You're going to go down. You're going to find the mat and find the shoulder and turn up to the side. Okay? So you're going to go down, find the mat, down, shoulder, and turn. Now, we were talking about this yesterday. The main challenge with this motion, depending if you are proficient on it, well done. If keep working on it, if you are working on it, if you're having breakdown very well, is that at this point in the motion, you are going to have to decide what is going to lead the next part of the movement. If the next part of the movement is going to be led by the idea that I have to put my shoulder on the ground, this is going to feel like a really long way. It's going to feel like a long way down, with nothing to support me. But if in this motion, what follows is that my hip is going to get exposed, okay? My hip is going to lead the movement, then that is going to be a better way to try to go down to the ground. So, okay, so we go down, okay? And your hip goes forward and comes back again. Your hip goes forward, comes back again. Now, mechanically, biomechanically, because your hip is going forward, means your knees are going down, okay? And now you're starting to find the mat, okay? So up again, hip goes forward, back, down. Hip goes forward, back, down. Hip goes forward, back, down, and up, okay? So there's a lot of demand on the toes, some demand on the knees, demand on the hip, and then ultimately demand on the lower back, to be able to do this exercise. So that's why all the previous exercises that we did on your back and on your toes, etc., are very important to be familiar with, because the body just eventually gets into demand on this. So, okay, so let's say you can go down, that's fine. You can now remember to use your hip. But then once your hip is starting to do the movement, that's when you find the mat. And then come back. Okay? The other side. Down, hip, mat, shoulder, down. Down, hip, mat, shoulder, down. Down, hip, mat, shoulder, turn. Okay. Right. So, okay. So if you can do that, then, and you keep practicing that, then now possibly we can do it from standing up, which is the same idea. Okay. Let's say you hip hinge, you pass one, you pass two, you go the same way, and okay. You hip hinge, you pass one, you pass two, down, up, and back. Hip hinge, passing one, passing two, feet side to side. That's the beginning of the movement. Bending your knees, extending your hips. Okay, bending knees, extend hips, and down. Hip hinge, one, two, feet side to side. Bend knees, extend hip, and find the mat. And so on. So, so in that case, when you are in your feet side to side, feet parallel, instead of receiving with an ukemi in a hanging position, when your feet parallel, three options are possible. You bend your knees, you extend your hips, and becomes a nice back stretch, or you bend your knees, you extend your hips, that becomes a longer Ukemi, where you bend your knees, you extend your hips, that becomes a short Ukemi. Any of those three things are important. But once again, the foundation of all of this is an important awareness of, the basics. You're here, how is your lower back? You're here, how is your hip thrust? You're here, how is your breathing to your knee? You're close to your body. How are your toes and your knees? You are here, how is your lower back extending? You're here, how is your lower back rotating? Okay, we are here, how is the health of your knees? You know, here, coming down and up, coming down and up. And here, how is your capacity to lead with your hip and come back, lead with your hip and come back, lead with your hip and come back and get up. So all of those exercises, slowly, slowly, the familiarity with them mean that these other bigger ukemis are more possible in the study. Okay? So, um, and yeah, the last thing is that remember, always keep an eye on the way you move your body, displace your body from point A to point B. If your mind is too much on your feet, then there will be an excess of steps, an excess of ashisavaks. If your mind is on your hip, then that hopefully will mean that your legs will be free and the motion of your hip will naturally carry your legs. Okay. So, but it's a difficult kind of where is my mind sitting kind of exercise. Now, if the mind is nowhere in those two places, then it becomes even more even more difficult. Okay, but anyway, so just keep an eye on how are you moving, how efficiently are you moving through space in your training. Right. Hey, arigato gozaimashita. Just before I go and I forget, all these things are linked in a way, our capacity to do our ukemi properly is linked to how our body is feeling and how aware and connected we are with it. Fortunately for that, we have the strength and conditioning program also on the members' website that Coach James Valentine kindly produced for us. That program has a lot of exercises that are very specific for this. For example, has a lot of hip thrust versions, which are very important, not only for this type of ukemi, but they are definitely beneficial for this type of ukemi. So if you want to have a systematic and an organized way of addressing the needs for this kind of practice, the strength and conditioning program that is on our member site does exactly that. Okay.